Hi guys, and welcome to AMC Mailbag, the all mailbag show here on AMC Movie News, when all we do is take your questions. I'm Ashley Mova, and if you've got a question that you want answered on air, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. You get it answered on Mailbag or Movie Talk, and sitting with me to answer those questions is the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, Mr. John Campea. John, what's up?
Hey, it's so good to finally be back in the routine again.
I know, right?
Getting Mailbag going,
Getting
Movie Talk
the flow
starting
of
on Monday. It's so excited to be back.
On Monday Fun Day.
Yay!
All right, let's get started. The first question is, they recently revealed the cast for Suicide Squad, which made the news for about 2 days, and then everyone forgot about it again. Even though I love Man of Steel, I would say I am less excited for Batman vs. Superman than Suicide Squad because I love the cast of the latter, and I think the premise is something intriguing that no one in the genre has done before. Am I the only one who thinks Suicide Squad will be better than Batman vs. Superman? Which one are you personally more excited for, and which one do you think will be better?
Well, which one am I more excited for? That's no brainer. Batman vs. Superman. Batman vs. Superman is a film I've been waiting for 20 years to see. A lot of people have been waiting 20 plus years to see. That ever since that iconic The Dark Knight Returns, graphic novel series came out, when we saw Batman vs. Superman fighting it out, that's the movie we want to see. Clearly.
Yeah.
Now, which one will be better? Well, I mean, hard to say. I don't get too terrible. I mean, I get very interested by actors in movies when I think there's a lot going for the movie, right? But remember, the actors are not the ones who are going to be writing their lines or coming up with what they're going to say.
True, yeah.
You know, so it's not going to be up to Tom Hardy or Will Smith or any of these other guys who are in the film as to whether it'll be a good movie or not. It's just, can they elevate a movie that's already great? If you are looking for a reason to think or to hope that Suicide Squad will be better than Batman vs. Superman, then don't look at the cast. Look at the director. David Ayer is directing Suicide Squad, and this to me is the number one thing that this movie has going for it, is the director. Now, it's a great story that they can do. There's a lot of areas. You're working with villains there, so there's a lot of cool things you can do that, like the person who asked the question has said, has never been done before. Lots of cool stuff. But that all sinks to the bottom of the ocean if you don't have a great director. And they got a great director in David Ayer. He just did a fabulous job with Fury, which everything that was wrong with Fury, I felt was an issue of script. But I thought it was a beautifully, masterfully directed film. When you just watch the pacing of it and how it's all crafted together, I think he did a magnificent job on that film. And what is the number one job of a director? Getting the best performances out of their actors that they can. And look what he did with Brad Pitt in that movie. Look what he did with Shia LaBeouf in that movie. Look what he did with the dude from Walking Dead, whose name I can never remember. Look what he did with those guys. He got world-class performances out of all of them. He crafted a brilliant film. Look at that movie he did, End of Watch, with Jake Gyllenhaal. And was it John Leguizamo who was with Jake Gyllenhaal in End of Watch?
No, it was Michael Pena.
It was Michael Pena. Thank you. I had a feeling it wasn't. Anyway, look what he did with that movie. Incredible. So now you take the director of those films and put him in with this cast for Suicide Squad, with this type of material. If you're looking for a reason, if you're looking for a bullet to put in your gun for your argument about why you think Suicide Squad will be better than Batman vs. Superman, that's your bullet. Your bullet is David Ayer. That is your argument. But which will be better? Too close to call. I think both films have incredible things going for them. But what am I more excited about? I'll be sad if tomorrow I found out Suicide Squad was canceled. I'd be devastated. Devastated if I found out tomorrow that Batman vs. Superman was canceled.
Yeah, those are the two most, iconic characters.
Oh, it's them. Look, all due respect to Marvel fans. All due respect. And I am a big Marvel fan. But it's Batman and it's Superman. They are the two faces of Mount Rushmore of the most iconic superheroes of all time. It's those two names, right? And seriously, I'm still haven't gotten over the fact that they pushed the movie to 2016. I'm still pissed off about that. I would cry if they cancel that movie. I've been waiting so long for Batman versus Superman. This is the movie we have to have. So it's no contest as far as what am I anticipating more, but as far as what's going to be the better film, I'm telling you, that Suicide Squad's got a lot going for it, but it starts with that director they got with David Ayer.
I'm curious, though, out of all the actors, because they've kind of got a lot of actors going for them in Suicide Squad, which actor do you think or character is going to be the one that everyone's going to talk about when that movie's over?
Yeah. Which is going to be the character everybody's talking about? Well, it's going to be Batman. And that's going to be either
in Suicide Squad.
What's that? Just in Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
Oh, what everybody's now waiting to see is what is Jared Leto going to do with the Joker?
Yeah, for sure.
That is what everybody is going to.
You think it's going to be good or bad?
Well, look, let's put it this way: it's in the hands of David Ayer. You got the reigning, defending Academy Award-winning actor in Jared Leto playing him. I've got to believe it's going to be good.
Right.
But coming out of Suicide Squad, asking what's going to be the character, what will be that linchpin? Here's the thing. When people come out of Suicide Squad, they're going to love it because Leto was a great Joker. Or they're going to hate it because they didn't think Leto was a good Joker. I'm telling you, I think it's all going to... I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. But I think 60% of this movie is, and how people will respond to this movie, because there are so many expectations coming off of Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker and the Christopher Nolan incarnation of the Joker, that 60% of this movie by people's responses is going to be about, did they like this Joker? And okay, well, as somebody who hasn't read Suicide Squad and all this kind of stuff, you saw this cast. Which character are you most excited to see?
I'm really curious to see, I want to see the Joker because, even people write to us all the time about Heath Ledger being the Joker. I thought he was a great Joker. And it's one of those things that paints a picture in your mind. You're kind of holding him to that. And you're like,
it's the new standard.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited to see that.
All right.
Richard Anderson writes, you're always saying that you don't think people need to read the books first to watch the movie, but wouldn't you make an exception for a book like The Hobbit, since the book has been out for so long and was actually required to be read in some schools? I know it was in mine. I just think it would be kind of silly not to read it, especially since it's not a big book.
First of all, The Hobbit is a book everybody should read. On that level, I completely agree. It is one of the most influential books ever written in fiction. It's one of the most influential books of fiction ever written. It spawned The Lord of the Rings, which spawned one of the biggest movie franchises in history that everybody knows and talks about. It absolutely is a book everybody should read. However, if you're going to ask me, I have not yet read The Hobbit, and I have not yet watched the movies. Which should I do first? Watch the movies first. Watch the movies, because we talked about this on yesterday's show too, is that I truly believe once you read the book first, and there's nothing wrong with that, but once you read the book first, it is going to, what's the word I'm looking for? Contaminate your experience of watching the movie. Now, when you watch the movie, you're not just going to watch the movie on its own merits. You're going to watch the movie and judge it based on your pre-existing expectations of what they should do with the movie. And that's never good. I say if you've got a book and you've got a movie that are based on the same thing, you haven't watched or read either yet, watch the movie first. Then read the book later. So I truly believe that. But once you watch the movie, go and read the book. It's one of those books I believe everybody should read. So on that I agree, but I totally disagree that you should read it first. I mean, but if you've read The Hobbit first already, which clearly I have, then that's fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. But if you've got both of them and you haven't experienced either, and you're interested in both, go watch the movies first and then read the books.
First of all, I want to know where this kid went to school, because my school never had anything cool like that. Did you ever see the series of Unfortunate Events? With
Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Doesn't matter.
Did you like it?
Oddly enough, I thought it was pretty cute.
Yeah.
I was shocked that
I read the books.
More.
Like that, when I was a kid, that was one of my favorite books. And I was like really upset when I saw it. I think it was going to be like a horror movie. Like, oh, that guy, I forget his name. I think it's Count Olaf. He was supposed to be like creepy and scary. And then Jim Carrey, I was like, Jim Carrey's hilarious. That's not true to my picture in my mind.
Right. So you went into the movie
exactly
already with a set a set building, a set number of walls and pillars that this is what this movie should fit into. And when it doesn't do that, you walk out disappointed. See, I had never read the books.
Yeah.
And I just watched the movie for what it was.
Right.
I was like, I thought it was pretty cute.
Yeah.
But
I love the Hobbit movie. Maybe I'll read the book now and it'll change my opinion. A viewer writes, greetings AMC Movie News. My question is this. Would you like if Jason Todd, aka Red Hood, was included in future Batman standalone movies? That's a character I would like to see on the screen. Thanks and keep up the great work.
Wow, this opens a hornet's nest that we dive into every once in a while around here. That a lot of people don't like my position on this.
Okay.
My answer is no. Now, but before I go into elaborate on why I'm going to say no, I believe there are a lot of good Batman involved animated movies out there, whether they're Justice League or Batman standalones. There are a number of really good Batman animated things out there. For my money, the best Batman animated film that is out there, and one of the better Batman stories in general, was Batman Under the Red Hood. It's terrific. It's really a great animated film. And one of my absolute favorite shows of the past 8-9 years has been Supernatural. And one of the stars of Supernatural, Jensen Ackles, actually does the voice of Jason Todd, the Red Hood, and that, which I thought was really good.
That's
and like
awesome.
Bruce Greenwood does, who's like Captain Pike in the new Star Trek movies. He does the voice of Batman in it. And there's a really great incarnation of the Joker in Under the Red Hood, like a really cool incarnation of the Joker in that. It is a terrific animated film. I highly recommend. It's on Netflix too. So if you have not seen Batman Under the Red Hood, I highly recommend you watch it. It's a lot of fun to watch. That being said, I don't want that in the live action world because it means having to get into Robin. Because Jason Todd was Robin. And before Jason Todd was Robin, Dick Grayson was Robin. And this whole world, this comes down to, I know I've had to explain this a bunch of times, but it bears repeating on this question. I love the character of Robin in the comic books and whatever. I just spouted on about Under the Red Hood, which has two of the Robin incarnations, because you have Dick Grayson in that Under the Red Hood. I believe Neil Patrick Harris actually does the voice of Dick Grayson in Batman Under the Red Hood, and Jensen Ackles as the second Robin, Jason Todd, who's the Red Hood. I love it in the animated world. I love it in the comic book series. However, I just have always believed that in this live action Batman world, it's cool if on the printed page, Batman takes a 13-year-old child and takes him into life-threatening situations. Says, come on, kid, let's go fight crime. I don't care if you're watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's go fight the mafia.
Is that what the story is of Red Hood? Because I'm not too familiar with it.
No, I mean, for those who don't know anything about the Red Hood, like after Dick Grayson moves on from being Robin, he grows up, becomes the hero Nightwing, and even becomes Batman for a little while. He takes on the mantle of the Bat for a while. But he's gone. Eventually, Batman takes on another Robin, another young kid, Jason Todd, who's a little more hot-headed, more of a temper, whatever. And what happens eventually to Jason Todd is that he's captured by the Joker. The Joker beats him to within an inch of his life with a crowbar. It's actually a horrific scene in the comics. It's very, very powerful. Of him
to see that on screen,
beating him to death, and they play that out in the Batman animated movie, Batman Under the Red Hood, where he's just beating with his crowbar, and then leaves him bleeding and dying in a building that is filled with explosives that Batman can't get to in time, and then the building blows up. Jason dies. There's this iconic frame where Batman, if you look it up online, you can find this picture of Batman kneeling in the rubble with the smoke, holding the battered, bruised, and broken, torn apart body of Jason Todd in his Robin outfit. It's an iconic scene. It's terrific. Anyway, and then Ra's al Ghul sneaks the body away, takes it to the Lazarus pit. He comes back mad now. He's come back to life, and now he's the Red Hood. Anyway, so I've just never believed that in this live action universe, that the notion that Batman would take a child to go and fight crime, like that would never. That's why Christopher Nolan said, no, we are not having Robin in these movies. And I believe Christopher Nolan was right. It doesn't work. Now, I have had a lot of fans tell me, well, John, what if they said he meets Dick Grayson when Dick Grayson's 20? And then he trains Dick Grayson and blah, blah. I said, okay, yeah. I get that. That's cool. But then that's not really Robin anymore. Now that's a different guy that you're just calling Dick Grayson, that you're just calling Robin. The true story of Robin is this child whose family was killed. Bruce Wayne, who went through the same kind of experience that he went to, takes him on as his ward and adopts him and raises him and brings him into the crime-fighting family and all that kind of, to teach him how to take revenge, essentially, on the criminal, not any one person, but the criminal element who took your family from you, and this is how you do it, and blah, blah. That's a great story in the comics. If you deviate from that, that's cool and that's fine. But that's not Robin anymore. Now that's just somebody else that you're just calling Robin and that you're just calling Disgrace. It is a different story altogether. And maybe they'll do that in the future, and I have no problem with that. Batman finds a 21-year-old guy who needs help, and he teaches him and trains him to become a crime fighter, and he calls him Nightwing, or he calls him Robin. That's cool. Just understand, that ain't the real Robin. Now, a lot of other people say to me, well, John, Bucky, because remember, Robin was created to appeal to children. If you read the history of the detective comic books, Robin was introduced to appeal to children. So children reading the comic books would have somebody they could relate with. Batman don't run with children in the live action world, right? Now, and then some people say to me, but John, you like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and that had Bucky. And Bucky was created, I believe, before Robin as a child sidekick to Captain America. And if that can work, why can't Robin work? Well, yeah, but Bucky in the Captain America movie wasn't no child. Yeah. He was actually the big brother figure to Captain Rogers, who then has been... So they called him Bucky, but that wasn't in the movie the same Bucky from the comic books. And it worked, and it was great, as long as you acknowledge that that wasn't the same Bucky that we had in the comic books. Just like I'm cool with a 20-something-year-old Dick Grayson becoming Nightwing, fighting with Batman, all that kind of stuff. I'm cool with that, as long as we acknowledge that that ain't Robin. That ain't the guy from the comic books that we grew up loving. And if they want to do that, I'm totally cool with it. All I don't want to see, though, in this live-action universe, the thing that Christopher Nolan would have been a mistake, is to take on the child Robin, a 14-year-old kid, a 13-year-old kid. Yeah. Goes, yay, let's go fight crime, Batman. And it's so funny. Like, I don't know that I've ever said anything in the years I've done AMC Movie News that have elicited more of a passionate response from people than when I say Robin would be stupid in a live-action Batman movie. The way he is, the way the true Robin is, that would be stupid in a live-action Batman movie. I'm telling you, there are guys out there, I'm telling you, say, how dare you say that about Robin? You're an idiot. And they cry and they whine and they moan and complain. And it's like, I'm sorry, I just don't think this post-Christopher Nolan Batman era, that Batman would take a 13-year-old child in to fight crime. I'm sorry that you so take that as such a personal offense, but they cry and cry. Wow, it's just unbelievable. So, look, I think there are people who disagree with me that think a child Robin could work, and that's cool. I don't happen to agree. And if they do something different with Robin, I'm all for it. Just understand that ain't the Robin from the comic books.
Now I'm excited to see the comment section of this episode.
Oh, it's going to be passionate.
Joseph Ludlow writes, do you think that the X-Wing fighter scene is actually on Naboo? These look quite visually similar. Why would the Star Wars creative team revisit Naboo?
Okay, so basically what Joseph is asking here is what we see in the trailer, the Star Wars trailer, that one great shot of those X-Wings kind of shooting over the surface of the water, right? And he's pointing out, quite accurately, it's like, hey, that kind of looks like Naboo from the Star Wars prequels. He's saying, why on earth would they want to go back to anything that has anything to do with the Star Wars prequels? Okay, first of all, number one, we don't know that that's Naboo. I'm sure out of the millions of planets and systems in the Star Wars universe, many of them have mountains and water. Let's just assume that many planets have mountains and water. But let's just for a moment, for the sake of argument, assume that it is Naboo. Why would they go back to Naboo? Well, remember, Naboo is an incredibly important world in the Star Wars universe. Number one, it's an important enough world that in the prequels, the whole trade dispute started around Naboo. that the entire Galactic Senate had to debate and discuss because there was this big trade blockade on the planet Naboo. Secondly, it is, you remember in the Star Wars universe, the Emperor himself, Palpatine, came from Naboo. He was the senator from Naboo. That was the Emperor's, for first of all, the Chancellor's, and then later on the Emperor's home world of Naboo. Thirdly, Darth Vader's not mother, but spouse was from Naboo. The mother of the leader of the rebellion, the mother of Princess Leia, was from Naboo. The mother of the lone surviving Jedi Knight in the galaxy, Luke Skywalker, was from Naboo. Probably, I don't know when they rubbed dirty parts together, but assumingly they were, what's the word I'm looking for? Conceived. They were conceived on Naboo, quite probably. So all those reasons, Naboo is a very core, important system for a million different reasons. Mm-hmm. So its importance in the Star Wars universe in this new era, 30 years later, would probably be assumed. So look, it's probably not Naboo to start with, but if it was Naboo, there are 3 very good reasons about why the storytellers might want to go back to that world.
Don't you think they would try to avoid anything from the prequels?
Oh, God,
because
yes.
A lot of people are upset about
Oh,
that.
God, yes. I think it would behoove them to as much as... Look, they've already said that the prequels are part of Star Wars canon. Mm-hmm. They're real. They happened. We can't get away from that.
We can't get away from them.
I mean, we can't. I keep referring to it as that, every family has that one uncle who's 45 years old but still lives at your grandparents' house in their basement and can't hold down a job and probably does a little too much drugs. You're completely embarrassed by him, but regardless of that, he's still family. That's the Star Wars prequels.
Such a great analogy.
They're the loser uncle who still is at 45 living in the grandparents' basement and is a total embarrassment to your family, but he's still family. And in that sense, the Star Wars prequels are still Star Wars. I mean, they're still there. But I really do think it behooves, Kennedy and J.J. Abrams and the whole creative team of Star Wars to, as much as possible, avoid references to the prequels. Let's not think about that. Don't have an old Senator Jar Jar pop back up and say, "We shall fight the evil." Like, we don't want that. Keep all of that away. Don't even talk about it. So I hope it's not Naboo.
That's a pretty good impression, though.
I do a good Jar Jar Binks.
Kyle Ceredonio writes, "Hi, AMC Movie Talk crew. You are one of my favorite channels out there and hope you're around for a very long time."
Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle. You guys often talk about comedic timing, and I was just wondering what you mean by that. It may be extremely obvious to everyone but me, but I'd appreciate the explanation.
I don't think it's obvious. I think it's one of those terms that's very loose and probably a lot of different people have different definitions for, so it's not a dumb question at all. I think it's a very subjective term. Look, when I talk about comedic timing, for me, 70% of comedy is the timing. You look at comedians like a Louis C.K., or you look at comedians like a Chris Rock, or you look at comedians like Stephen Wright. These are guys who, it's not just about writing the jokes. It's about developing over years. There's a great documentary I think it's called Comedian, with Jerry Seinfeld. Hey, fact checker Dennis, can you look up that site? I think it's called Comedian. Can you just see if that's the Jerry Seinfeld documentary? I'm not positive that it is, but I think that's it. So there's this documentary called Comedian where Jerry Seinfeld takes years he's got a joke written, but now he's got to get on stage, and he talks about this process of telling those jokes over and over and over to work out just the specific wording and the timing. How many milliseconds do you pause between this word and this word? How much of a breath do you take between the finalizing of the setup and delivering the punchline? All that kind of stuff. Because 60% of comedy is the timing of it, right? Do you have a chance to look that up? It is Comedian. I highly recommend it. Look it up. It's a great documentary. Because it's about Jerry Seinfeld retires all of his old material, and he's starting with a brand new set of material, going out, doing the club circuit, the New York Comedy Club circuit, and working out the material. And so when I'm watching a movie, a lot of times you can have some great funny lines, but does the performer have those comedic instincts to know how many milliseconds, and it's a game of milliseconds. They say football is a game of inches. Comedy to me is a game of milliseconds. About the proper pauses, how long to wait before you hit with that next line, how much of an emphasis do you put on this word, and all that kind of stuff. And comedians will spend a decade working out their material to do this, right? So like to me, the funniest moment in all of film in 2014 is in 22 Jump Street.
I knew you were going to say that.
22 Jump Street when, not Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum realizes that Jonah Hill has slept with Ice Cube's daughter. That scene, 95% of it was the timing of the scene.
So true.
The perfect amount of weight as the clock ticks,
true.
tick, 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 ding, woo! And like all that kind of, it's the timing of it. And you can see certain actors get on screen and they just naturally understand the ebb and flow of comedy and the timing of it and how to emphasize certain things to make great material. Look, we've all heard different comedians tell the same joke. And when one comedian tells it, it's not funny.
So true.
And another comedian tells it, it's hilarious. Why? Because one has a great sense of comedic timing and one does not. And so it's a very subjective thing. You may talk to other people who know far more about comedy than I do, and they may give you a different definition of comedic timing, but when you hear us talking about comedic timing, that's kind of what we're talking about.
Do you think that someone can learn comedic timing? You're saying that these comedians, they study the seconds and stuff, but to me, it's almost like singing. Like you kind of start out with you start out with a good voice and then you can go to an instructor that can help you develop that. Do you think that someone can really learn to be funny and get that comedic timing?
I think it's one of those situations where you have to have a natural talent for it. But then having the natural talent for it is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Can you develop it and grow it? Yes. But I think if you're like me and have absolutely a horrible sense of humor and absolutely no comedic talent whatsoever, I don't think I can learn. But I think a lot of people will have a natural starting point where they've got a good sense of humor. And then if you work it, they can learn it and develop it and grow it.
Yeah.
Steve Carell is a guy to me who has always had a great natural sense of comedic timing.
Yeah.
But he's just a guy that, to me, has just gotten better and better and better. Not necessarily that his movies have all gotten, he's been in better and better movies, but you watch him in it, and like, what was that one he just did, The Very Bad, No Good, Rotten, Horrible Day? Terrible title for a movie. But it's not a great movie. It's not a well-written movie. But I think if you put Steve Carell from 7 years ago in that movie, it's not as good as it is. You put Steve Carell today, who has grown to the point that he is in that, and he can carry that movie. And so, yeah, I do think it's something he can learn and develop.
Awesome.
I can't, but other people can.
Terry Jackson writes, "Hello, AMC movie people. Recently, while at the theater, I saw the trailer for The Loft and was completely sold on it. I was wondering, what are your thoughts on the casting of the main group of men?"
You've got James Marsden. You got Carl Urban. You've got, from the original European film, an actor by the name of Matthias Gosenarts. I always mispronounce his name. You got Isabel Lucas. You got one of my all-time Hollywood hotties, Rona Mitra, is in it as well. This film has been finished for about 3 years.
What?
I think it was like 3 years ago that I first saw the trailer come out. And
No
then they
way.
pulled the release, and then it has sat on a shelf, and I believe it's finally coming out in January. The notion of The Loft, if you don't know, I think it's a great
My God,
premise.
it looks so good.
It is a great
so good.
premise. Here's the notion. You got a group of 4 or 5 buddies, guys, right? They're all good guys, you think. But they're all good guys. But here's the thing. They all decide, every guy has a fantasy about doing some bad things. What if we all went in together and bought a loft, a really cool pad that our wives don't know about,
This is
that
terrible.
our families don't know about, that we can go and do things that maybe other guys can't, and we cover for each other, right? There are more husbands out there watching this show who have fantasized about something, and wives. There are more wives out there who fantasize about this sort of thing than will care to admit it as well. But so there's these groups of buddies. So, when they want to carry on a little bit of a fling here and there, they've got the loft they can go to. And they know when one buddy's going to be using it, when it's others. It's a cool, hip bachelor pad, whatever. But one day, one of the guys shows up and there's a murdered woman in the bed who's been murdered and bloody and mess. And it starts off this chain of events, right? What a great concept
So
for
good.
a movie.
And then there's like a message on the board behind her. She's bleeding.
Yeah, so was it one of the guys? Was it one of the wives of one of the guys?
Ooh,
was it
I
somebody
didn't think
else
of
who's
that.
taking revenge on the guys for something else entirely? I don't know. But I know the movie looks incredible.
So good.
So exciting. I have not watched the original European. Actually, this is the second remake of it. I
Oh,
believe there was an
really?
original European version of it who this dude Matthias is in. And then I believe there was a Dutch remake of it. If I'm remembering the chronology right, there was a Dutch remake of it. And now this is the second remake of it in the North American audience.
Okay.
I am fascinated.
Mm-hmm.
The film has been delayed for so long.
Why is that? For what?
I fear that it's not any good.
Really?
No, look, the trailer looks great to me.
good.
The premise is so great. I have nothing to base this on other than if this movie was really good, why would you make it wait this long? I've heard about putting the movies on a shelf for an extra 6 months or an extra year, maybe even 2 years, but I believe we're going into 3-year territory now, maybe longer. If you've done your research, I don't know. Hey, Dennis.
Shot in summer of 2011.
So it was shot 3 years ago. So they shot in the summer of 2011, going on 3.5 years ago now that it was shot. So it was probably finished 6 months later. It was probably finished 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And whether it was just they never felt it was the timing was right to release it, whether there might have been some rights fights going on, I don't know. But that's the one thing that makes me a little bit worried. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I've been waiting a long time to see this movie, so I'm really excited. Okay,
really
let me
excited
ask
too.
you something,
Go on.
Ashley.
Yeah.
What is the worst thing you've ever done?
Oh my
Okay, wait, that's too broad of a
gosh.
question. Wait a minute, let me rephrase. I recall the question. Let me rephrase. Have you and other girlfriends, don't have to give me details,
Okay.
ever in the past, maybe conspired to do some things you maybe normally wouldn't have done or shouldn't have done?
I want to say that I'm the angel of my crew, but my friends, they are
Oh, so you're
little
gonna throw your
devils.
friends under
I'm
the
going to
under the
say
bus.
my friends are devils, and I'm the angel. But yeah, I mean, girls just want to have fun.
I have never done anything wrong. I just want to point that out.
You probably
But
have a lot.
I've heard a lot of stories. I have a lot.
Riley Granson writes, "Hey guys, love the show and never miss an episode. My question regards Miles Teller and his performance in Whiplash. I just saw this film today and was blown away by it. Teller is brilliant in this film, and I'm wondering why he isn't even being considered as even a potential Oscar nominee for Best Actor. I know it's a very crowded race this year, but it just seems like he has been thrown under the rug. Am I in the minority here? Keep up the fantastic work."
Well, look, first of all, it should be said, I do believe Miles Teller is in the conversation. I've been saying that for a while. I believe Miles Teller is in the conversation because he's brilliant in Whiplash. He's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if you're one of these people who you're really doubting the upcoming Fantastic Four movie, go watch Whiplash. Go watch Miles Teller in Whiplash, okay? Mm-hmm. That's going to make you feel a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Then go watch Michael B. Jordan just about anything he's been in. Go watch Mara in about anything she's been in. Mm-hmm. Look, this is a great cast. Miles Teller's in the conversation, but he's very loosely in the conversation. And this is a topic that comes up around Oscar time a lot, that a lot of people think that if somebody's great in something, that means they deserve to get an Oscar nomination, get some love, they'll say. But the problem is, it's not about were you great in something. It's about were you better than 5 other people. Mm-hmm. It's not about whether you were great. It's about were you better than 5 other people. Miles Teller has 2 things working against him right now. Number one is that also in Whiplash is J.K. Simmons, who right now, if I had to put money on who's going to win Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars this year, my money would go on J.K. Simmons for Whiplash. He's probably going to win. I don't know that for sure, and I don't think it's a lock. I would just, if I had to put my money on somebody right now, it would be on J.K. Simmons. And so he's being overshadowed a little bit by J.K. Simmons in that. And that's tough when you're in the same movie with another guy who's probably going to be the front runner for his award, right? Yeah. So that hurts Miles Teller's chances a little bit. But the other thing, the big thing that hurts, the major thing that's going to go against him is the fact that there are only 5 spots for nominees. So now let me list you off some other names here. Michael Keaton in Birdman. Benedict Cumberbatch in The Theory of Everything. Not The Theory of Everything. The Imitation Game. Jake Gyllenhaal, who we talked about on yesterday's show, in Nightcrawler, best performance of his career. David Oyelowo in Selma. Ralph Fiennes for the Grand Budapest Hotel. Steve Carell in Foxcatcher. Eddie Redmayne in The Theory of Everything. There are, how many people I just listed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names I just mentioned. If you want Miles Teller to be nominated for Best Actor, you have to bump 3 of those names off the list. Not just 1, not just 2, 3. Mm-hmm. You have to say 3 of those guys don't deserve to be there and throw them out. I can't even name one that we should throw out. So that is what's working against Teller this year, is that this year turned out to be an even more stacked year than last year was, when Tom Hanks didn't get a nomination, for heaven's sakes. And so it's just too crowded, and those are the things that are working against Teller.
Do you think they should, or they could, make the nominations now to 10?
They did it for Best Picture.
Right.
Then they changed it that now it can be anywhere between 5 and 10.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I think, look, I believe this, that being nominated for an Academy Award is a huge honor, because it says out of the 900 lead performances that year, or 900 supporting performances in major, independent, and minor and local release films, that you were one of the 5 best. That carries something.
Oh, yeah.
I believe it dilutes the honor of, and I'm sure there's arguments to be made against this too, totally. But my personal opinion is this should be an elite thing.
Okay.
And the more and more number you add to the nominee lists, it dilutes that honor. Now you're not just one of 5, you're one of 7, or you're one of 10, or you're one of 15. And at what point do you stop? Because you expand it to 10, but then there's going to be an argument whether the guy who was in 11th, 12th, or 13th place should have got in. Maybe we should expand it to 15, I like 5. I also like the fact that they expanded the Best Picture race, but I like every other category, particularly director, screenplay, actor, supporting actor, actress, supporting actress. I like that those are limited to 5. Personally, from my own point of view, I would like to keep it at 5, but I won't put up a big argument if they ever want to increase it. But personally, I say keep it at 5.
Yeah, that makes sense. Noi Telenu writes, I personally groan when I see lies in movies and general inaccuracies. If it's truly bad, I won't even see a movie, or if I'm watching it, just stop it, since it bugs me that much. Which is why I didn't watch Lucy. Humans use all their brains, but now even more people will believe that stupid lie all because Morgan Freeman was in it. Will it kill Will it kill the movie industry to be factual at all? But no, the narrative and hands tied and creative freedom and not supposed to teach people. Well, I'm sick of it. And as such, I can't really enjoy a lot of movies. Have you not seen or not wanted to, but had to because of job, a movie due to this?
Okay, so yeah, you're right. In Lucy, they build on that myth that humans only use 10% of their brains. Well, that's been debunked many, many times. We use all of our brain. And so was that accurate? No, it's not accurate. Have I ever not seen a movie because I knew there's a huge inaccuracy in it? No. Why? Because it's a movie. It's a movie. Look, I think if there are historical problems, historical details that are inaccurate in certain movies, this isn't our education system. It's a movie. The responsibility of studios is to make the best movie possible, the most entertaining movie possible. Look, there's no millionaire running around New York City in a Batman outfit fighting crime at night. It's not real. It's a movie. There's no alien from another planet known as Krypton who came to our world and whose cells are powered by the magic of our yellow sun that turns him into the super-powered godlike being. That wouldn't work that way. That's not how it would work. It's a lie. But it's a movie. It's a story. I believe this wholeheartedly, and I stand by this. It is not the job of the movie industry to educate people. It is your job to educate yourself. Read a book. Go to school. Stay in school, kids. Don't do drugs. That's the school's responsibility. That's parents' responsibility. That's your own individual responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the movie. The movies just tell a fun story.
Yeah.
and to bend reality and to bend what is real and to bend facts and to all that kind of stuff to tell a compelling story. That's what the job of a movie is. It's not to educate us. Look, I have no problem with somebody like Noy here, who that bothers him. Mm-hmm. That's cool, because we're all different. Movies affect us differently. And if, scientific inaccuracies or historical inaccuracies or possibility inaccuracies bother you, that's cool that it bothers you. There's nothing wrong with the fact that that bothers you. If that makes you want to skip certain movies, then by all means skip certain movies. But I think for a lot of us, including me, that's not an issue. I just want to go in and be entertained. Mm-hmm. I want to be made to feel, to be scared, to laugh, to feel enraged, to feel dramatic tension, to be excited, to hold on to the edge of my seat. I want to go in for an experience. And whatever you do in a movie to give me an experience, do. And let me worry about my education as far as what's factual and what's not. If they came out with a movie and said like, hey, oh my goodness, like, we'll say Morgan Freeman comes out in a movie where he plays a scientist who discovers that there's unlimited world power, like energy for the world, which is starving for energy and power and things like that, located in a man's penis. Then make that movie. It's not real. It's not true, but make the movie for heaven's sakes. And if it's going to be good and funny and fun, then do it. But that's just me. That's my. What about you? Does that ever bother you, seeing either scientific, historical, possibility, any type of inaccuracy? Does that ever take you out of a movie?
Not really, but I feel that there probably is a point where you could be crossing the line, especially with historical events or political things. I feel like you could probably cross the line, but if there were rules with that, then people would be like, "Our First Amendment rights. What are happening to our First Amendment rights?" So,
look at if it wasn't for that, Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards wouldn't exist. Yeah. That's a great movie. Yeah. Completely inaccurate in every way, but it's a great movie. So, it doesn't bother me.
All right. I think that was the last question
for
the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I know, through that one.
Flew through that one. Thanks, guys, so much for watching. Again, I want to remind you guys that there are a lot of fabulous movies being shown in AMC theaters today. So go ahead and head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theaters, showtimes, and movie ticket info. And if you want a podcast version of this episode, check it out in the description box below. Also, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to the guys in the room, Jonathan and Dennis. And of course, thanks to John. John, where can people find you online?
You can find me on the various social media networks, on Facebook and on Twitter specifically, just at John Campia.
And you can find me Twitter, Instagram at Ashley Mova. And we'll catch you on the next episode of Mailbag. Bye, guys.